I'm good by God's grace.
I'm sure there are some personal stories from some people you know who perhaps will tell you how far this has gotten to them. Do you have any of those stories being told to you?
What I do have, I'm sure, my mom is from the Adidomi area. My mom is from Mafi, Adidomi. And she has a family house that she built for her relatives there, even though she's not there. She doesn't live there. She built a house for, I think, her family members. And, she's not well at the moment. And we got word a couple of days ago that the whole house has been submerged. And because of her situation, we were all trying not to let her know, because then she panics and things will get a little worse. So we were trying to manage the situation where we were not going to inform her. And then I think somehow somebody from the village managed to call her early and told her that the whole house was gone and submerged in water. And it wasn't easy. So since then, I also know a few people in the Sugakupe area. I keep calling to find out what was going on, because I was surprised at the level of the water at the bridge, and so I kept calling people to find out how things were going, and it's been one story after another story.
And so far, what do you make of everything you're hearing in terms of the extent of damage?
This country, we're just full of talk. That's all we do, talk. Everybody talks. Nobody really works. I'll tell you something, okay? And since May 2023, in May this year, I think specifically on the 8th, NADMO and VRA got together with the support of with the involvement of the U.S. Embassy to test what they call their VRA's emergency, NADMO and VRA's emergency preparedness plan. Okay, on the dam spillage. Way back in May, in May, they said they got together and they did test the emergency preparedness of both NADMO and VRA. I remember very well that there was this lady from North Dakota who came in and also helped them plan and prepare for dam spillage in Ghana. I think he works for the National Guard. So that aside, so way back in May, NADMO and VRA had tested their emergency preparedness for the dam, and they knew exactly what to do if there was any need for spillage. Listen to this, September 12th, 2023, VRA got to know that they had to do spillage. There was going to be a need to do spillage, and had internal documentation about the fact that spillage was inevitable, and that they had informed all the stakeholders about the fact that the levels of water in the reservoir was at a level where it appeared they had to have some sort of spillage. That was 1 month and a few days ago. So September 12th to October 12th is 1 month, isn't it? What's today's date? Today is 19th, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, today's 19th.
19th. VRA then issued a statement on the 12th of September, acknowledging that there was going to be spillage downstream the Akosombo Dam. You know, we have two disaster areas. One is the spillage that comes from the Bagri Dam in Burkina Faso, which tends to flood areas in the northern and the upper east regions. And then we have, and so you may call that the upstream of the dam, of Akosombo Dam. Then we have the downstream, which is the regions that are being affected now. VRA specifically said in September 12th, that it appeared that there's going to be spillage of water, excess water from the reservoir, because of the unusual levels of water that was accumulating in the reservoir. So all this that is going on, that this is some sort of an emergency preparedness and whatever, is nonsense. The government and VIA specifically stated in their internal documentation and memos that they had alerted all the stakeholders. And who are the stakeholders in disaster management or emergency disaster management? Of course, NADMO is part.
Ghana's gold.
National security is part. The entire medical, all those apparatuses were informed way back on the 12th of September that there is an impending spillage of water. What the government did was to do nothing. They decided not to bother. They decided not to do anything. So all these crocodile tears that we are hearing, that there is emergency. There's no emergency. This emergency was foretold by the government themselves way back in September. So, Senator, it is just that the government decided that they didn't want to bother.
They knew ahead. In fact, they were anticipating and they were preparing, from what you know, for it.
Yes. They knew, not just that they were anticipating, they knew as of last month on the 12th of September, and if the report came out on the 12th of September, that it means that they knew way before September 12th that the level of water in the reservoir was going to necessitate spillage of water, and that spillage of water required an emergency preparedness and response to people downstream the Akosombo Dam. So, and that all the stakeholders you're hearing today, all knew about this spillage way back in September. So let us not be fooled by all these long talks that there is some emergency plan that is going on. There's no emergency. There's no emergency. These people knew exactly what to do. They said they had planned for it. They just decided not to do anything once the time came. That's how I understand this very clearly.
So for you, from what you know, in fact, the moment the thing started happening, NADMO, VRA, and everybody who did that simulation should know exactly the steps to take. By this time, we should even have food available, a place available for them to stay. They should know how far the water can go. All those should be information that they should have and do the things timeously. So we should not be complaining about the situation of the people by that time if they were serious.
So not what they should do, what they should know. What I'm saying that the issue about water, the Akosombo Dam, if you have been there, they have this long marking, okay? So they are able to predict that there's going to be power crisis from in the country at the time when we used to rely solely on hydropower. They will know because they know the levels of water and how much power it can generate. So if the level goes, so when you go there, there's this big marking on the wall, okay, that tells you the level of the water in the Akosombo Dam. So that reservoir has markings. Way back in September, already knew that where the water has reached, it was inevitable that spillage had to be done. Way back in May, they had done a simulation of NADMO and VRA's test emergency preparedness. Then by September, they knew the level of water in the dam and they knew that they were going to do spillage. I'm even surprised that it took them so long to do this massive spillage all at once at this time. Because if they knew way back in September that the water levels was high, one would have thought they would have begun like an incremental discharge of the water in the dam. And then they would have kicked in all the plans that they had been making since May up to today. But what did they do? They kept writing and talking and informing the government that there is an impending disaster and that the levels were going up and up and up. They did not plan for maybe like an incremental or slow movement way back in September. They waited till the dam was about to burst and then now open the dam just to flood everywhere at once. So the government knew the volume of water. They're saying that the volume of water is unprecedented, isn't it? They are able to tell that because they have been monitoring the reservoir. They have always known how much water was going to be spilled and how much water was in the reservoir and how much water was continuing to come way back since September. So all these talk about the sudden, that's what I hear, sudden water, or some have even said that the patterns of the rain has changed, and therefore, yes, we know Ghana's pattern of rain has changed. It used to be in June, July, okay? And now we know since 8 years now, or 10 years now, the pattern of rainfall has changed. But what I'm telling you is that this statement that, there's this sudden water that filled the reservoir is not true. Because they knew since September and said they were planning towards it. And then they waited and waited till the dam was about to burst. And then they just opened the dam at full force. And they knew exactly how much water was going to come out and how much damage was going to be caused. Let nobody fool anyone. That's really what happened.
Then, having said they knew, are you then surprised? Are you then surprised at perhaps the response that we are seeing? Because if you know, your response is different from if you do not know that was going to happen.
So this particular disaster, I was just waiting not to even make any comment because I feel like this government is just a bunch of people who are they're excited about the suit and tie and the terms of office, but either they are so incompetent or they are just not, really perturbed. And I see that some of the people in government at the highest level appear to have already checked out. Like if you see the president's body language, he's already checked out. He's just waiting for a new president to come. He's checked out. Because here you have a president who, and I'm telling you this, you have a president who is away when these things happen. One would have thought that since September, they would have informed the president that we're having unprecedented volumes of water in the reservoir, and therefore we think that spillage is inevitable. We also assess that based on the volume of water that is in the reservoir at the moment, this spillage will be like no other. If, for example, we had swift and efficient disaster management, I would have thought they didn't start in September when they knew that things were out of control because perhaps they were preparing for a very efficient discharge of the water, and therefore they took a lot more time, about 1 month, to prepare for all these prepared response. But what did they do? Rather, they didn't do anything. The president then travels, knowing very well that any day in the country, disaster was imminent. He travels out of the country, and then whilst he's there, he now issues a statement or whatever that he's coming to Ghana. He comes to Ghana, and he goes without a plan. Okay? He is now saying that he's formed a committee. During the disaster itself. So, Senator, I'll take you to a quick thing. So, yes, there is what they call the emergency preparedness and response. Okay? That is usually prior to disasters. You deal that as an emergency enough, and that you prepare to respond to the emergency. There is the second level, which is really the response. Okay? Then there is the third level, which is the post-disaster evaluation and response. So I'm trying to ask myself what when the disaster already occurred, and I've already told you, they spend a lot of taxpayers' money in per diem, meeting and talking about NADMO and VRA's response in May. In September, they already knew that the amount of water in the reservoir was beyond the level that the dam could tolerate. They still wait. We are lucky. And I'm telling you something. Ghana is lucky that the dam has even held this water till today, because the dam would have burst between September 12th and this month, and we would have been talking about something on a completely different level by now. So now we've gone past the phase of emergency preparedness and response. Where we are now is the response itself. The president then goes to the scene of the disaster at a time when response is required. And he goes there with nothing. He rather goes there to announce a committee that he has set up. Okay? The committees are set up way before the disaster. So what I heard one of the chiefs said that the president came there and came to talk and gave them nothing. I think he said he came to lambast them and brought them nothing. Something to that effect.
Yeah, he came empty-handed.
Yes, and it appears that this chief even knows better than all the people parading themselves as emergency response people, because after the preparations, it happens before the disaster. And God being on our side, this was not like some cyclone that all of a sudden dropped from the sky. This is a phenomenon that the government has been monitoring since May 8th. And up to September 12th, they knew exactly what was happening. It did not catch them by surprise. So at the time the president and the government people went to the disaster scene, that was the time for response. It was not the time for planning, where you're forming committees and all that you have. No. So the people were expecting that by the time the president came, he would have come with helicopter loads of food and tents and everything on that day. In fact, prior to his coming. I heard this story that I don't want to believe it, that they said the president asked some chiefs to wait for him from 11 o'clock to 12. You know, when disaster like this happens, the chiefs and the local leaders are the people who usually begin some sort of engagement with government agencies in coordinating, knowing where to go and all of that. If they sat down from 11 to 5 o'clock, you just imagine, and we're talking about water, you just imagine if water was rising in the neighborhood, how much time they have lost by waiting from 11 to 5. So you realize that for me, it is just that the government didn't care. I'm finding it difficult to believe that they did not know what to do, because they have been planning. They even brought somebody from America to help them plan this. Okay? So it is the case that this government does not know what to do, or they don't care. They just didn't care that this thing was going to, destroy the livelihoods and life and property of thousands and thousands of people spread over a very long place. They knew exactly how much water they were going to discharge, and they knew the damage it was going to cause. Let's not make any mistake about it. I get the point. That's why I didn't want to talk. I get the point that this is not the time to be blaming people, right? Because people's lives are really affected by this. People's, like I was talking to a friend of mine at the BBC, and he was telling me how much they think that Africa doesn't get covered because one bomb is thrown in Palestine and 500 people are killed, and it's the whole news around the world. We're talking about thousands and thousands of people affected by these disaster, and nobody really cares. Even the local media, people really don't care that much. Okay? But I can tell you that this, for me, as a Ghanaian, and as somebody who follows news, compared to the number of people who have been affected, this is bigger than the bomb that landed on the Palestinian hospital 3 days ago. Okay, so I feel sad for this country. I really do. But if you talk, they're going to say, "Oh, why are you talking about this at this time?" I get it. I get it that this is an emergency of incredible proportion. But you can't help but say something when you see innocent lives being affected by people and people who ought to have done better. Just sat down and watched for all this to happen. Look, Senna, look at the Bagri Dam, okay? You know the drought that happens in the north from time to time. You have a president that said he wanted to build dams, okay? And he also knew that anytime the Bagri Dam in Burkina is opened, people downstream the Bagri Dam, northern and upper east regions, experience flooding. He wants to build a dam. And what does he do? He decides to build those potholes around the region instead of building one big dam where they can divert the flow of the water to one big dam, okay, that they can take from there and now begin to help the farmers when they grow their crops to now irrigate. Let's even say that this president decided that he was going to build one huge dam that will contain the water that flows from Bagri Dam, from their spillage, from Burkina. But he was not able to put irrigation systems to even give it to their farmers. You would have said at least he has done something. Okay? We are sitting in this country, we are going to wait. We don't even have a plan for who will be affected by spillage from Bagri Dam and what crops they are supposed to plant at what point in time in the year, so that the plant harvest does not correspond with the day or with the time in the year where the dam is expected to have spillage. So these farmers will keep growing crops, keeping their livestock, and by the time it's getting mature, there's spillage and the whole thing is wiped out. But we have had a government that has spent millions digging all these small, what they call dams, which I don't consider dams, all over the place. They are all dried up, and yet they are still flooding people's properties and things in the Upper East and in downstream Akosombo. That is what we have. That's the reality of what is happening in Ghana. And so for me, I'm just tired of this. It's not going to work. It will not work. This crocodile tears the government and everybody is sharing. VRA knew. The government knew all this way back 1 month later. We must be thanking our God that between September 12th and now, the whole dam didn't come down, because it could have.
And that would have meant something else altogether. But
something else. Something completely on a scale that... Anyway.
Well, first, let me tell you that the matter of the chiefs been waiting for hours. and the president decided not to turn up is actually correct, because yesterday the member of parliament for Central Tongue actually told us that was what happened, that they were expecting the president, chiefs were guarded, only for them to be told later that he won't pass by Central Tongue. But in the meantime, yes, we've gotten you said this doesn't even qualify to be an emergency because we knew, but we've gotten our preparedness wrong. We've gotten even the response wrong. But is there anything to salvage to at least make sure that the people are comfortable?
The real work, I'm telling you this, the real work will come when the water begins to subside. Okay? Now we have to pray. We have to pray that I hear that people are getting water to drink, but I don't know how many people. And people are going to be sticking together. People who usually would have had distance in relating to each other are all going to be cramped together. So if one is sick, okay, if one falls sick in a communicable disease, it's going to begin to spread as you deal with the physical responses. You have to deal with the health response. We have to pray we don't get there. But first, we are still in the response stage. There's going to be post-response. You're going to hear people asking for compensation. You're going to hear people asking for this. They're going to be looking at VRA, okay? That because VRA is the one that spilled the water. But I can tell you, you look on the books of VRA and check whether or not they can be able to give adequate compensation or anything to the people there. There's going to be post-disaster preparedness and responses and evaluation. Roads would have been destroyed. Bridges would have collapsed. There are some people who will have to be relocated, because my thinking is, if this has happened now, chances are it will happen again or it will happen worse. So there are people who live on islands that have been completely overrun by water at this point. So the decision has to be made. Do we still keep people coming here, or do we have to relocate them? If we really want to relocate them, what do we have to do? So there's a big issue coming, post-disaster response. Now, they're all kept in a place, their psyche is survival. They need to survive this disaster. Okay, so when you give them a small tent, they're happy to take it. If you give them small food and water, they're happy to take it because they think this is temporary. And this is very symptomatic of ordinary citizens. They now see some small relief where they're pitched in a tent and they're getting small food and they know that times are not normal. But post this situation, they would like to go back home. They will go back home only to realize there's no food. There's no water. There's no this. What do they do after that? And at least they've got the preparedness wrong. They've got the response wrong. We pray to God and to the country that we will get the post-reconstruction and evaluation and response right, just so that this doesn't begin to have, for some people, the farmers, they are farmers. The farming season is a whole year activity. You plant crops the whole year, waiting to harvest at a particular time. So when the farm is overrun, is the whole year's income, loans, and investment that's gone. So we just have to pray we get that, at least we get that right, just so we can bring some relief to some people. And I hope, which is what we don't do well, that we will have valuable lessons learned from here. That this should never happen again. Never again should we have a situation where our government knows the catastrophe that awaits citizens and still keeps quiet and wait till the disaster actually occurs and we show up empty-handed with crocodile tears. I hope that is one big lesson we can take out of this disaster.
And let me then conclude with you, because the Queen Mother of Mepe says we are taking this out of context. The president's comments about when disasters happen is not a matter of politics, that if it was about votes, he would not have turned up there in the first place. The Queen Mother says he was joking. I hold a different opinion, because I've heard the president make that comment so many times. And it sounds to me like he means every bit of what he said. I'm sure you've heard it. Are we taking him out of context?
You know, the Queen Mother, I want to believe that, she's a Queen Mother. So she's involved in traditional rulership. So we should leave it. We should leave her. But please, I just told you that this is a president that gets to a disaster scene, okay, at a time of response, not preparedness. He gets to a disaster scene at a time of response. So what you expected the president to say is that, please, citizens, be calm. We have been following this event since September 12th. We know how much volume of water that will be spilled. This spillage will take 6, 7 days, 2 weeks. We anticipate that the volumes of water will continue to rise. We have made all adequate preparations for this. For those who have been affected, we have sent 200 million bags of rice, 100,000 bags of sugar, clothing, health, everybody is going to get shelter. And so this is why I've come. I've come to assure you that despite this disaster, you are going to be fine. Okay? First of all, when you say that the president was just joking, and that the president's own statement, if he was for votes, he will not be the first. The president is not running for election again. Okay, he should get that in his head if he has forgotten. He's not running for elections again. And when he was running for election, he was always going to the Volta region. We know that. So even what he said, even if it was whatever it was not true. Okay, what he said was not true. And let's even take the Queen Mother's word. The president was cracking jokes at this time when thousands and thousands of communities are affected. He spent the little few minutes that he had to respond to the disaster cracking jokes. Is that what the Queen Mother wants us to believe? Like I told you, Sana, this country is becoming a joke. Okay, we are now in the realm of Bangladesh. Bangladesh is what we are compared to. And if you're a Ghanaian, I feel like we wait, Ghanaians, like this disaster, we always wait for things to get out of complete control. Then we are coming around trying, we are in the realm of Bangladesh. And even in the most dangerous time of the lives of the citizens, the president chose let's believe the Queen Mother for a second, that he chose to go and crack a joke when every second mattered. Look, he was talking politics. What the president wanted to tell these people is what Wontumi had said before the president went there. You Voltarians, you don't vote for us, and when there is disaster, you're looking out for us to come as quickly as possible. It's because the president and the government knew, okay, we don't get our votes here, so yeah, they're Ghanaians. Probably is not an emergency for us that much. And then we went there, and they always tell you that when you want to know how somebody is thinking, just listen. If you pick somebody for interrogation, let the person keep talking. No matter how clever you think he is, the subconscious never lies. It will betray him. The president knew exactly what he was talking about. This disaster is a political decision to help the people of Volta region. However, you don't vote for me, okay? But I'm still here anyway. That's what the president wanted to say. They knew since September 12th. I didn't want to say that so explicitly, but they knew since September 12th that this was going to happen. But they thought, well, these people don't vote for us anyway. You know, they always vote for the other side. Wontumi came out and said it directly. The president just had a very nice way of saying it. So the Queen Mother should give us a break. Okay, let her deal with the issues of her traditional area as a Queen Mother. But what is happening is a grand scheme, and people do not get it. But we will leave it as it is. Time, they say, is the best judge and tells the best story. But what the president said was a betrayal of himself by his subconscious. The subconscious of the brain never lies. You can talk and talk and talk, and you think you surprise it. But he has a way of letting out what data that the brain has accumulated over a period of time, and it will always come in. It will always come in. Otherwise, this is a very, very expensive joke.
Thank you. Thank you very much for speaking to us.
Thank you, Sana.
That's Raymond Archer. Raymond Archer is a security person, a journalist, joining us. Taking us to 6 minutes past 9 on Radio Gold 90.5 FM. We'll take a break, but before we do that, if you're a lady and you want to maintain proper hygiene during and after your menses, get Tinated Venicare from Tinated Herbal Center, pharmacy, or any herbal shop near you. Tinated Venicare will help you maintain and improve your hygiene as a lady. If you're if you're a lady with periodic menstrual pain and cramps during that time of the month, you need the Evetone Forte syrup. Evetone Forte syrup. For the relief you have been looking for, there's a Tinated Stomach mixture. If you're suffering from bloated stomach or tummy upset due to indigestion, then get the Tinated Stomach mixture to aid your digestion and relieve you from the stomach troubles. And then there's the VB drops. VB drops. They have come to help you and your family to improve your general well-being. Take Tinated VB drops to always improve and support your immune system. Tinated products are available at all Tinated Herbal Centers, pharmacies, or herbal shops near you. For bulk purchase, visit Tinated Herbal Center at Okaishi Drug Lane or call 020 51 80 012. Visit them online, www.tinatedherbalonline.com, or follow them on Facebook and Instagram at Tinated Herbal, one word. Don't forget, Tinated Venicare, Evetone Forte syrup, Tinated Stomach mixture, VB drops are not recommended for pregnant women, lactating mothers, and children below 12 years.
Masa, fanintami entobie. Madam, mame gobe 5 cedis.
No, me dafo. Ene koko say.
Koko 3 cedis. Madam, me say 5 cedis.